Hello everybody and welcome to Car Confections. Now, also welcome to part 2 of our all-new Honda Prologue review. We've been anxiously awaiting showing you what it's like behind the wheel to drive this Honda Prologue, and the day has finally come. We can show you what this vehicle is like. Now, of course, in this test drive, we're going to be talking about quite a few different things, as you can see on the screen right now, including getting our sound level reading going 55 miles per hour. But we're going to first start out with a hard acceleration to see what this Honda Prologue is all about.
Alright,
Nice.
and that's 60 miles per hour. So, with this Prologue, you certainly have pretty good power, especially when you're choosing the dual motor all-wheel drive system. So, I think it's going to be, critical to kind of go over again some of those basic specifications that we talked about in the first part. You do have a front-wheel drive powertrain, which is going to have a single electric motor, and then all-wheel drive, which is going to have a dual electric motor. When you choose all-wheel drive, that is also going to give you additional power, as you would expect. So you're going to be setting it 288 horsepower with that more powerful electric motor setup.
Yeah, and the 333 pound-feet of torque certainly just rams you back into the seat. For those of you who are looking to come from a traditional combustion engine vehicle to an EV, you're certainly going to be very impressed with the torque that you feel on board. It has that instantaneous feel. You just tap the gas and you just kind of slam back in the seat. It really gives you that quick feel, even if you're not going as quick to 60 as you might even think.
All right, we're going to try another acceleration in sport mode now.
Got some sound amplification.
Yeah, so that's one of the things. Obviously, like, the actual speed is not really changing, but one of the things to note is that when you press the sport mode button, which is over here on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, that activates what Honda calls active sound control. So you do have this cool futuristic sound effect, which is applied as you accelerate and decelerate. And we'll get to hear it again as I take off from the stop sign. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I like that it supports the feeling of speed, but of course, if you don't like that, then you don't have to use that. Sport mode is also going to be enhancing the throttle response and also just how fast the steering is.
Yeah, now I also do want to point out, so like Drew said, there are 2 different powertrain setups for this Prologue. This is the standard setup if you choose the top-end Elite model. If you choose the EX or the Touring, you will come standard with the front-wheel drive setup, and that's going to have 212 horsepower, 236 pound-feet of torque. So quite a bit of a boost if you choose this more powerful dual-motor all-wheel drive setup at 288. So you can do the math on that, quite a bit of a difference there. Now, I also do want to point out that you can option on the dual-motor all-wheel drive system on the lower 2 trim levels, so you don't have to be stuck into just that base engine setup. If you choose the lower trim levels, you can actually option on the dual motor all-wheel drive for around $3,000.
Yeah, I really like the torquey feel on board. That's going to be probably the biggest thing that you're going to notice if you're coming from an ICE car, which I think a lot of people that buy this vehicle are going to be coming from an ICE car. You might transition from something like a CR-V hybrid to this Prologue, and when you get behind the wheel, you're going to just notice how much that torque and power feels different than a CR-V hybrid. And by the way, I do want to mention that the sport mode I was talking about earlier, that is actually going to be an Elite exclusive feature.
Yeah, and, while we're just kind of cruising here on the road, I do want to talk about your overall ride quality for the Prologue. So we've been behind the wheel for a bit at this point, and I have to say the ride quality is pretty darn good. If you're coming from something like a CR-V hybrid, you are definitely going to find very good ride quality here. One of the things that I will point out that is a little bit different is that if you choose this Elite model, you do get the larger 21-inch alloy wheels. So I think that allows a little bit more intrusion into the cabin than a smaller wheel setup. So do keep that in mind. If you want the best ride quality, I would probably stick with the EX or Touring trim level.
Yeah, this is a ridiculously rough road.
Yeah.
But of course you can, feel some vibrations transmit in. I do think it's taking pretty good care of the big stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, this road is
rough.
This is a bad road.
Yeah.
So we're really putting it to the test here. Alright, so we made it to twistier section of the road, and thankfully it has been repaved recently, it appears.
Thank goodness.
Let's talk a little bit about dynamics. So Honda talked pretty extensively about unique ways that they tune this. Of course, as we discussed in part 1, this does share the GM Ultium platform, meaning, that part is not developed by Honda, but Honda wanted to put their touch on it because Honda, of course, emphasizes driving dynamics. And I think behind the wheel, you're going to find a pretty athletic and fairly agile feeling vehicle. Now, obviously, this is going to be pretty heavy, so you are going to feel that weight as you shift around corners with a little bit of body roll, but the weight is going to ride pretty low to the ground. So as you make these turns, pretty balanced feel. This is going to be more balanced than what you'd find in the typical ICE Honda, like a Passport or a CR-V hybrid. Additionally, the steering is lightweight but quick responding, so you'll see a pretty good response immediately as soon as you turn off center. And it's pretty confidence inspiring in terms of the placement of the wheels. Overall, I would say it feels pretty similar to the Blazer EV. We did drive that very extensively also in California. Both of them are pretty athletic for, mid-size SUVs.
Yeah, for sure. And I do also want to just go ahead and talk about range, especially when we're talking about something like the Blazer EV, which is a competitive vehicle to this Prologue. So as far as maximum range is concerned, it's going to be 296 miles. That's going to be for the front-wheel drive version. The Blazer EV does go a little bit further. It can go up to 320 miles, so do keep that in mind. Also keep in mind, though, that the Blazer EV is offered in a rear drive form, whereas this Prologue is only going to be front-wheel drive or dual motor all-wheel drive.
Yeah, the 296, by the way, is class-leading standard range.
Yeah.
So Honda is giving you nearly 300 miles in the base model, where a lot of the competition, like Hyundai Ioniq 5 is one thing that comes to mind, is going to start you off at the SE, is going to be a much smaller battery capacity. Honda just does the 185 kilowatt hour battery across the entire lineup.
And as far as the range is concerned for this dual motor all-wheel drive setup, that's going to be coming in at 281 miles if you choose anything besides this Elite model. If you choose the Elite, it's going down to 273 miles of range. All right, let's go ahead and get into our airball and slam dunk, our favorite element and our least favorite element about the Honda Prologue. Drew, do you want to kick us off with the slam dunk?
Yeah, so we discussed, and we think the slam dunk about this Prologue is that it has kind of a conventional, approachable feel to it. Honda really went out of their way to just avoid the gimmicks a lot of other EVs that it's competing with have, and it has just a really nice look to the exterior, an interior that's very user-friendly with a lot of physical buttons and knobs, things like that are going to make it easy for you to just hop in this EV and feel at home.
Yeah. Now, as far as our airball is concerned, it does have to do with this interior. We just wish that Honda maybe put their own touch on it a little bit more than just kind of copy and pasting the Blazer's interior. If you're coming from an existing Honda product, this is actually going to be maybe a little unfamiliar to you because this is pretty much a GM interior. So we wish Honda had maybe spent a little bit more time just making it feel more like a Honda product inside of here. All right, and let's go ahead and get our sound level reading going 55 miles an hour. That's something we do in all of our Car Confections reviews, and just because we're here in California doesn't mean we're not going to get that. So let's go ahead and put the fan speed on 1. 60.2 decibels is our official Car Confections sound level reading. So
in California.
Yeah, in California. We are on the media drive for this Prologue, so we cannot control where the media drive is. However, the vast majority of vehicles that this competes with, we've actually tested out here in California, actually Napa Valley for the most part. So it is a pretty good reference point for how quiet this vehicle is. I think it's very similar to stuff like the Blazer EV, very similar to stuff like the Kia EV6. So if you're comparing it to those rivals, you will be very happy with the amount of noise entering into the cabin.
Right, and once we get this back in Kentucky, we'll test it out on a more familiar road. I definitely would anticipate that would fall on something a little bit smoother than this.
And as far as last things to cover, I do just want to go ahead and mention Honda's warranty, which is going to be a 3-year 36,000 mile basic warranty, 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. You are also going to get complimentary maintenance included. And I also want to point out that for those of you that haven't watched part 1 of our review of this Prologue, you can go watch that and see all the exterior and interior details about this Prologue, as well as pricing information. I will quickly recap though. As far as pricing, it starts at $47,400 and you go all the way up to about $57,900 for this fully loaded Elite model. Do keep in mind you may actually be able to qualify for the $7,500 tax rebate, so that's an important thing about this Honda Prologue.
You might have saw me just tap up there on the screen. That's because I noticed that there's a button for one pedal drive. So when I let off the gas, as you can see, the regen braking is actually capable of bringing us to a complete stop.
Yeah.
Then we can accelerate again.
And guys, I mean, that's where we're going to be able to leave off on part 2 of our Honda Prologue review. The driving portion, like I mentioned just a second ago, if you want to know all the details about this Prologue, go and watch part 1 of our review, which is already live on the channel. And if you're a fan and subscriber to the channel, thank you so much for your continued support, because you do make this all possible. If you're not already a part of our Car Confections family, please hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you help get us invited to events like this where we can get some of the latest cars on the market. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.